Hey, we're just going to do a quick comms check out in Teams land. Can you hear us okay from here in the assembly chambers? I see a couple of hands up there. Are you running that?
Both me and Jack are.
Okay.
Muting the person who is stand up.
Okay.
Have to unmute themselves and then be able to.
Okay, so we've unmuted some of you. If you would, you'll need to make sure you're unmuted on your end. And Jack, we can probably just leave them all unmuted. It doesn't seem like there's that many folks in the room. So can anyone out there in the Teams hear me?
Mr. Brown, I can hear you.
Yeah, who is this?
Casey
Oh, it's
Cook.
Casey. Okay, good. So it's broadcasting then. I'm assuming folks just are muted then. Is there anyone else other than Casey that can hear okay? I just want to make sure we got good comms before we get started. And then Jack, you've unmuted them all, is that correct? Okay. Yeah, I would say, because I think the 733 number, I think that's KTNA, if I remember correctly.
Correct. You're the only ones who've identified themselves.
So, hey, Philip Manning, are you online? Can you hear us? Can you unmute him, Jack?
He should be able to unmute himself. I have enabled.
Okay. Yeah. One last call and then we're going to get started because we'll live stream, so the information will be going out. Jennifer, if you'll step.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Casey.
Hey, Philip, can you try to hit *6 and see if that unmutes you? Okay, I saw that you're unmuted. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we've got a couple of folks in there in the audience, and then we have one news outlet here in the chambers. All right, we're going to get started then. Everyone's ready? All right. You guys ready to go live stream then? All right, we'll get started. Good morning. My name is Mike Brown. I'm the Matsu Borough Manager. Today with me are Mayor DeVries, the MSB Mayor. We have Jennifer Castro from Matanuska Electric Association, or MEA, as I'll refer to them throughout. We have Aviva Moran, who's an incident meteorologist with the National Weather Service. We're hoping that she can join us online. She wasn't able to be present here in the chambers today. And then we also have our Emergency Services Director, Ken Barkley, with us this morning, and the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Randy Trainey. So we're going to go through an agenda, give you an update on the status of things related to the high winds here in the Matsu Borough, and then we will take some questions and do our best to address those for you. So just to provide some updates on the current situation, current responses and available services to our residents, I'll start by saying today the borough signed a disaster declaration for sustained and damaging winds throughout the borough and requesting that the governor declare a disaster emergency and make state financial disaster assistance available to the Matsu Borough in its response and recovery from this event. As of today, borough offices and facilities, as well as schools across the Matsu, are closed, and we'll update you on what that could look like here in the coming days this week. The borough has advised residents to shelter in place for the duration of the storm. We have received multiple reports of damages to roads and facilities, damage to homes and businesses to include debris, roofs, broken windows, frozen pipes, and damages to vehicles. We are experiencing prolonged and sustained loss of basic utilities to large populations across the borough, and MEA will speak to their ongoing efforts to restore power here in just a moment. The borough opened up 2 shelters early this morning in Wasilla at the Menard Sports Complex and in Palmer at the Matsu Senior Services Center. Both shelters are being staffed by the American Red Cross and are available to provide temporary heat and shelter for residents. At this time, we have not received any reports of loss of life or significant injuries due to the storm, and all emergency crews are fully operational. And then lastly, the borough did experience an outage on IT systems related to power yesterday. Those services have largely been restored, and we encourage the public to use the Problem Reporter app and the road hotline to report road issues requiring our attention. With that said, I'm going to step aside and invite Dr. Trainey to the podium to give a short update on schools.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'm Randy Trainey, the superintendent of the Matsu Borough School District. I want to give a quick update about the district's operations. All of our facilities are in good shape with regard to the major systems, electricity, water, heat. We have had some minor damage. With that said, our challenge with trying to open school is just getting students safely to the schools. And so for that reason, we're announcing today that we will be closed tomorrow. And we're going to make an announcement by noon tomorrow regarding if the closure extends. The main reason for that is our parking lots, they just are not safe for students. And then we can't have kids waiting at bus stops. Not to mention we have so many families and staff who are dealing with broken pipes, no electricity. That's our update. I'll be happy to take questions afterwards.
Thank you, Dr. Trainey. I'm going to see if Aviva Braun from the National Weather Service is available to join us. I'm hoping you're online and are able to hear us. Okay, so I don't think Aviva's with us. I don't know, Ken, if you have any updates on weather that we can share. Basically, what we've heard, and we had hoped that they would be able to go into detail from the National Weather Services to talk about the prolonged nature. Obviously, we've seen high wind warnings for the valley for the past couple of days. With a couple of extensions. I think 12-hour extensions have happened twice now, from what we understand. And I'm not purporting to be a weather expert here, is that we are expecting to see those winds subside, but we would expect to see some high winds over the next couple of days. So that's something we're going to continue to monitor in the way of, continued impacts to services and just folks' ability to get out and about. And we'll, so with that said, I'm going to hand a microphone over to Jennifer Castro from MEA and really talk about, I think, what folks are more concerned about is some of the power outages across the borough. Aviva, I'm going to give you one last shot here. Can you hit *6 to make sure you're unmuted?
Hi.
Perfect. We can hear you great, Aviva. I'm going to turn the mic to you if you could give us an update on weather and what we're expecting over the next couple of days. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Hi. Let me brief you all on the weather. Thank you for that good summary that you said earlier, but I'll go further into detail now. So good morning, everyone. My name is Aviva Braun. I'm an incident meteorologist and also the warning coordination meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Anchorage. So everybody's been feeling the impacts. I know it's ongoing. We are in the midst of a strong wind event, which is affecting the Matsu Valley and has been since early Saturday the 1st, with gusts as high as 88 miles per hour at the Palmer Airport. And that was recorded January 2nd at 5:36 p.m. We had a gust to 91 miles per hour at the Glen Highway interchange around the same time. And we had a gust of 74 miles per hour at the Wasilla Airport at 10:16 p.m. on January 2nd. Compounding the impacts is the extreme cold with temperatures near zero and wind chills 15 to 35 degrees below zero. And this has been in effect and experience over the course of the event, continuing even still with the strong wind gusts ongoing. At this time, gusts are anywhere from 45 to 65 miles per hour, with a gust to 75 miles per hour just recorded at 9:50 a.m. at the Palmer Airport this morning. Gusts will slowly diminish this afternoon through Wednesday, but due to the nature of the event and the impacts being felt in the Mat-Su Valley, a high wind warning will remain in effect through Wednesday evening. Cold temperatures and frigid wind chills will continue as well. And we specifically state in our high wind warning that we will have wind chill values 20 to 35 below zero expected in combination with the winds that we are currently experiencing, and that this could be dangerous and life-threatening for those without power, as frostbite can develop in as little as 15 minutes in these conditions. So we want people to be aware of that and make sure to take precautions as necessary. I'd like to take a minute and speak to the nature of this wind event. This kind of wind event is specifically called a Borough wind event in the meteorological community. And this is when polar Arctic air mass or extremely cold temperatures set in over the Yukon and force their way through valleys, rolling downhill and out to the Gulf where the temperatures are much warmer. This effect is compounded by the difference in pressure between the very cold temperatures over the Yukon and the low pressure over the Gulf. The difference combined of the temperature and the pressure then allows the winds to rush from the Yukon to the Gulf, accelerating through the valleys, which is exactly what we've been experiencing in the Mat-Su Valley along the way. As that is still incoming, as this is an ongoing event, the records being set are still being experienced, but as of 10 a.m. today, the Mat-Su Valley had experienced 48 straight hours of strong winds, making this the fourth longest Borough wind event in the Palmer-Wasilla area. And this is comparable to the third longest event, which was set in February of 1979 with 51 hours of strong winds, and with a gust to 79 miles per hour set at the Palmer Airport during that event. I'd like to close by saying that the National Weather Service continues to watch this event as it unfolds and continues to keep an eye on the winds and the temperatures and the impacts being experienced. And we acknowledge how detrimental this wind event has been and continues to be for the communities that we serve. We stand by to help as best we can. And of course, I will take questions at the end of this press conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Aviva. That's very helpful. I'm going to introduce Jennifer Castro from MEA.
Thank you. So I think maybe we'll just kind of start from the very beginning. So on Friday evening, we were alerted from the National Weather Service of a wind advisory taking place beginning on Saturday. And so we put all of our crews and staff on alert that this event was coming so that we could be prepared to respond to whatever circumstances may arise. On Saturday morning, I would say about 6:45 a.m. is when we really started to see the wind pick up from north and start causing larger outages up north, which we dispatched our crews to. And then it's just been nonstop ever since that time. Pretty much a good part of Saturday, we were hovering around 10,000 members out of power. And then yesterday on Sunday, that number peaking higher up to around the 18,000 number mark and going as high as 22,000 members without power at one point. Currently, right now, we're just under 16,000 members without power. And kind of to describe the situation that we're facing is every time we get some folks back on, we're seeing another outage elsewhere. And so we haven't really been able to make a whole ton of headway in terms of seeing that number ultimately come down. We do have all of our available lineman crews working, and they're all working on a 16 and 8 hour rotation. So working 16 hours straight with 8-hour break. And then we also have the assistance of additional line crews. And I do want to recognize them and thank them for supplying us with additional resources from Sturgeon, EPC, ALB, and NPC. This afternoon, we anticipate getting additional crews from Chugach Electric, and Golden Valley is also sending down additional line crews to us, and we so greatly appreciate their assistance. So we hope to make a lot more headway this afternoon when we have additional support. I will say that definitely when we have the daylight to our advantage, it helps us work a little quicker. And then with nightfall, it definitely makes things a little trickier as our crews have to look out for extra safety precautions, including debris that's flying through the air in and around them. For folks reporting outages, we have had reports of some folks struggling to get a hold of us on the phone lines. Every time we get caught up on messages, there's another major outage, and it ties up the lines again in the messages. And so just keep trying, or my preference or my best recommendation to our members to report their outage is directly online through their Smart Hub account. If you log into your Smart Hub account online and just click report an outage or an issue, that information instantly goes straight to our dispatchers and they get it within seconds. So that's a great way to let us know about your outage. We've also been receiving hundreds of messages on our Facebook page, and we are trying to be as responsive as we can to those, mostly with questions pertaining to when their individual power will be back on. And so keep messaging us and we'll try to be as responsive as we possibly can. Right now, our anticipation of having every single last person on is going to be by the end of this week. Our priorities as far as responding to outages is we are responding to the larger and largest ones first, and then trying to work our way down to the 100 or so person outages. And then we do have a significant amount of smaller groups of outages that we're also now trying to prioritize in terms of longest duration out. So for folks that have been out over 24 hours and they're in those smaller sets of outages, we greatly appreciate your patience, and we are going to try to get to you as soon as we can today, hopefully. But like we said, we anticipate to have every member restored likely by the end of this week. In some situations, we have complete meter bases that have to be fully repaired, and that's going to take some time. We have broken poles, which in normal weather circumstances take, around 7 hours to repair. But working in these wind and these conditions takes a lot more time to make those kinds of extensive repairs. So just a lot of different things that we're dealing with and facing with, but our goal is to get everyone back on, and we'll continue to work until we have everyone back on. We know how essential and important power is for people, and so we are doing our best that we can, and greatly appreciate the additional assistance and help that we're getting later on today. And I'll answer questions after everyone else.
Great. So we'll take the opportunity now to field questions from the press. So whether you're online, make sure you're unmuted with *6. You can indicate that you have a question, and then I know we have one outlet in the room. So we'll pause and take any questions at this time.
Hi, it's Lauren next with the last source. We just took the out from the weather service say that there's a real concern for life or death actually for folks.
Yeah, this is Philip Manning with KTNA. Can you hear me?
Any other outreach efforts that are going on to reach some of these folks, or anything you can tell us, any advice for folks maybe in that situation?
Yeah, I think what's really valuable, Lauren, thanks for the question, is to make sure folks understand the ongoing nature of this. And with the temperature drop, I think this weekend it was pretty brutal with the winds, but it was a little bit warmer. So now that we're seeing that the potential for a temperature drop to happen that quickly with the wind chill and with just the continued winds over the next several days, we would definitely encourage folks not to stay too long in their homes if they're without power and it's getting to that point where they can't maintain an adequate temperature. And I think what we'll see is then potentially the population in those shelters may go up over time. Currently, I think there's only been a few people that have checked into either shelter, but knowing that we have those set up in those communities and available to the community, we would certainly want to continue to emphasize the importance of that as the temperatures drop so that folks don't stay in their homes too long. Are there any questions online? I think I heard somebody chime in.
Yeah, this is Philip Manning with KTNA. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Philip.
So speaking specifically for the Northern Valley, I heard Jennifer Castro mention that some of the longer duration outages are being prioritized. There's a couple places up here, a lot of Trapper Creek and parts of Talkeetna that have now been out for more than 48 hours. Is there any plan for the borough to establish any sort of warm-up facility here for those folks who have been without power for a couple days at this point?
Yeah, we can certainly look at doing that. A lot of it is we take those requests based on when we get them from the American Red Cross. And I think now that we're seeing, I think originally when we were watching the high wind warnings, you know, it was initially set to expire, I think at 6 p.m. on Sunday. It was extended to 6 a.m. on Monday, then 6 p.m. on today. And then we're also hearing the update from the National Weather Service that, you know, although the winds will diminish, we're still going to have high winds through the next couple of days, that we're going to continue to look at how we have adequate facilities across the borough. So I am sure our emergency services staff will be looking at that and working with the American Red Cross to establish a facility should it be needed.
This is Lex Trinan with Alaska Public Media. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if we could just pause 1 second and I'll be right back with you. I think Jennifer Castro has an update to Philip's earlier question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry.
Hi, Philip. This is Jennifer. I just wanted to give you an update specific to your listeners up there. We do have a crew that's on site up in Petersville right now. They're working on restoring the largest outage up there, which is about 360 or so members, and then also restoring some of those nearby smaller outages. So there is a crew up there right now working on it. We do have a lot of larger spruce trees that have torn down through the lines, and so they're having to rehang wire and do some extensive repair work up there. So typically in a non-storm situation, that type of work can usually take around 10 to 12 hours to fix. And so working through that in these kinds of conditions is probably going to take a little bit longer. But we do have a crew up specifically in that northern spot area working on getting those folks back on, as they have been out for an extended amount of time.
All right, great. Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay, Alaska Public Media.
Yeah, this is Lex with Public Media again. Yeah, I was just wondering, you said that there was no significant injuries at this time. I was just kind of wondering if you could elaborate on, you know, whether you've heard of minor injuries, things like that related to this. And then one other quick question just about traveling up there. I mean, at this point, do you recommend, you know, if there's folks from Anchorage that want to get to the valley for one reason or another, or you still recommend travel up there?
I caught the first part of your question. Yeah, we have seen minor injuries reported. I mean, there have been a number of things from, I think we heard of one restaurant where some glass shattered and there was a minor injury to an individual. So we have seen spot reports, but we've been very fortunate not to have any significant injuries and or loss of life at this point. So very grateful for that. And I didn't catch the second part of your question. You came in a little bit garbled here in the chambers.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just wondering if you're still advising against travel from, you know, from Anchorage or from elsewhere into the valley. Is it safe to drive on the Glen Highway?
Yeah, so we haven't heard of any additional whiteout conditions that we were experiencing across the hay flats that I think were occurring, was it Saturday or Sunday? So I think it's safer to travel, but obviously with all the power outages coming and going, and I think Jennifer spoke to it a little bit, you know, where they'll bring a residence back into service, but then another outage will occur. So I think at this point, we certainly wouldn't look for more folks to come out in the next couple of days as we continue to work our way out of this and recover. And I'm sure too, we're going to be seeing a lot of businesses, a lot of citizens running around working to do assessments on damages that need to be repaired as a product of the windstorm. So we're aware of a lot of those things. So at this point, obviously we've advised Matsu Borough residents to shelter in place until the winds diminish. So I don't think we would be encouraging folks from Anchorage to be coming out to recreate or whatnot at this point over the next couple of days.
Is there anything that folks can do to help out the situation in terms of donations or anything?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of at this time. I'm sure that as this occurs and we're getting this week started, you'll see things that'll come up in social media where folks will have an opportunity to make donations and whatnot over the next couple of days.
Hi, this is Tess Williams with English Daily News.
Hi, go ahead. We can hear
I'm
you.
just wondering if, thank you. I'm wondering if the borough will be seeking assistance from the state in the form of like a disaster declaration or assistance from the National Guard in response to these storms.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we did make a disaster declaration earlier this morning, and that's been shared with the state of Alaska. So we're hoping the governor will follow suit and declare the same. But at this point, there's no immediate health or safety issues where we're needing additional resources from outside the borough. Obviously, you heard MEA speak to additional crews that are needed to make repairs. I'm really glad to hear that that a couple of the utility companies are coming in to provide support. So I think at this point, that's probably the best thing that we can see. But we don't have any immediate health and safety needs as far as resources from the state or other municipalities that are needed in here at this time.
Will there be a need for overnight shelters, or will the shelters open up, the warming shelters that are open up longer tonight?
Yeah, so the shelters that are open 24/7 currently, and that will continue to be the case, I would imagine, over the next few days. We really coordinate pretty closely with the American Red Cross to determine what the sheltering needs are. And you heard an earlier question about potentially, looking at shelters that may be needed in the more remote rural regions of the borough. Are there any other questions from folks online?
We did get some questions about what's available at the shelters, like is there a spot for people to sleep or get food?
Do you want to speak to the sheltering? Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ken Barkley, Director of Emergency Services. So at the shelters, Red Cross does have food available there and sleeping facilities, cots. So if you do need to go to the shelter, they will help provide you with those things. And also we will be updating the shelters with updates on what's going on, what power's restored and what other areas, roads are open or closed. So you'll be getting those updates inside the shelter. But they will have food, hot beverages as well, and cots for spending the evening if that's the case.
Any other questions online before I turn it over to Mayor DeVries? Yeah, if there are any other questions, one last reminder, you may need to hit *6 to unmute yourself. So I'll pause for a moment for that to happen. We have another question from Lauren here in the room. So Stefan's going to bring you a microphone.
I'm just wondering if there's any preliminary damages.
We haven't actually put the summary of that together yet. We are receiving reports, and with the disaster declaration, obviously we'll be codifying the different commercial and residential reports that we get in terms of damage. And obviously, if the state follows suit and there is public assistance that becomes available, it really kind of speaks more to the recovery phase. Right now, we're really focused on the response phase and getting folks through this so we don't suffer anything unnecessarily as a product of the winds and or power losses, especially with the temperature change that's kind of come over the last day or so. Any other questions online before I turn it over to Mayor DeVries? Last call. Okay, very good.
Well, good morning. Just so that you know, the borough is trying to do absolutely everything to keep you informed in what's going on. So we will be posting updates on social media, and we have set up a call center at the borough, and that number, and this will be posted on our social media also. So if you aren't able to quickly write it down, of course, 907-861-7900 if you have specific questions. And for MEA, the number I have is 746-7697. Is that a good number? Okay. So anyway, that's a good number for MEA. I, for myself too, have at our home have been out without electricity for over 14 hours. And so we are in our personal life trying to shelter in place, but I don't know, the Matsu Senior Citizen Center is looking pretty nice and warm and cozy right now for me and for those in the Wasilla area, of course, for the Menard Center. We especially want to extend our thanks to MEA because we know that they are working and this is their community. They love our community as much as we all do. And we know that they're doing absolutely everything possible. I think it's easy to be the armchair quarterback when we don't really understand all of the things that go into restoring our electricity. So, and I especially want to thank Ken for all the first responders and for Mike for putting together the emergency declaration. And I am pretty sure that the governor, if he hasn't already signed it, he will be signing that. And thank you again. So please watch our Facebook page as well as other social media. We will, is our website up now? Okay, so our website is, the Borough website is up now. It was out for, I think probably what, 24? Yeah, yesterday. So we thank you very much for being wise in making your decisions about whether you should shelter in place or whether you should go someplace else or find some family and friends. You know, you may be able to find a family or a friend that you've forgotten about, but they got electricity, so they might become your best buddy here. So anyway, thank you very much and Happy New Year.